I was at the I Had a Dream speech. We were at the March on Washington when I was 7, I guess. We were up, as I said, by the Washington Monument. Was way too far to hear directly because they didn't have the sound systems back then. But there were groups of about 40 or 50 people clustered around somebody holding a transistor radio, at full volume. And I remember just these groups of people sort of swaying and breathing with King as he was speaking, and just this incredible sense of community and strength.
I used to brag about the fact that in 1963, in the spring of '63, I went down to the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, which was the headquarters for the March on Washington. And we were stuffing envelopes and we were doing whatever Bayard Rustin told us to do. I was then working as the education director of the Amalgamated Laundry Workers Joint Board. So when the march took place, I was able to get 5 buses of laundry workers to go from New York to Washington to participate in the march, and that was a very exciting thing.
This was the period of the Civil Rights Movement, 1965, 66, 67. This was Martin Luther King era. And here I am teaching history. I'm showing film strips of Martin Luther King. I'm reading poems by Langston Hughes to my students. I'm doing a project with the Boston Globe to teach them how to read the newspaper. And left and right, I'm getting the principal is calling me, and the parents don't like Langston Hughes. Too liberal. The Boston Globe is too left-wing a paper. I was barely 21 years old when I started teaching. They considered me this little communist, left-wing, socialist, radical from New York, and I was Jewish.
And later, when I was 13, just after my bar mitzvah, there was March on Washington, and my parents decided they weren't going, but my friend Avram and I got onto a school bus. 13, my parents told me, if you see tear gas, go the other way. Don't go to the Pentagon, because that's where the civil disobedience was going to take place. And try to come home without getting arrested. I said, okay, fine. That seemed like valid things to say.
I'm totally a product of the 60s. I totally identified with everything going on. And I was in the, I don't know if the memory of the sit-in at Columbia still exists. We took over the buildings, and then when a bunch of a little elite took Math Hall had the reputation for being the commune, the craziest people were there. But Tom Hayden was a left political, a student movement activist. He is somewhat older, and he showed up there from outside, wearing his karate gi, And so we elected him, chairman of the math commune, and we attracted all these people from off campus, which everyone in Columbia was terrified of.
We organized Jewish teachers for community control, and it's amazing. Somebody came from the Times and interviewed us, and I realized that people trust what you say, even if you're lying. If you have 10 members, you can say you have 300. And they believe you. So we became a much larger group than we really were.
And we got busted together in Math Hall. I don't know if you know the writer Paul Auster. He's pretty well known. We were the 4 of us. Me and him and these 2 girls were locked ourselves in this room when that bust came. That busted 1,000 people in one night. And we sat on the floor, arms linked. And not for long, because these cops, they were pissed because we had soaped down the stairs and they couldn't get in, and they were falling all over each other. And so when they came in, they didn't ask questions. They just clubbed, and I was the first one to get clubbed in the head. So, very quickly we got up and we went outside, and I'll never forget. There's this mass of there's like thousands. There was 1,000 busted, and it crammed us in the paddy wagons. And there's these lights everywhere, and everyone, and this chant, the whole world is watching, the whole world, and I'm standing there proud, with blood streaming down my neck. I got 4 stitches in the back of my head for that.
They're celebrating now in Washington, the 40th anniversary of our demonstrations in front of the Soviet embassy, protesting the treatment of Soviet Jews. And I was part of that.
When I look back, it was a rather exciting time to live. Civil rights movement, all of that going on. The second wave of feminism, you had civil rights movement, you had Jewish writers, and Jews they didn't have to change their names anymore. I had 2 faculty members who changed. Irving Howe was not Irving Howe. I think it was Horowitz or whatever. And I forget what Bob Manners was, but they changed their names, not because they didn't feel Jewish, but it was easier to get a job.
Little did I know, how many Jews were involved in this. It didn't matter to me, but of course, large numbers of Jews were involved, and I thought quite a bit about this was our largely unconscious answer to never again.
Trying to find in your religious upbringing a sense of social justice, I think is a stretch. I think by and large, if you're a good person, whether you're Jewish or not Jewish, you're going to have a concern for the weaker and the oppressed and the people who are whose lives are harder.
It was very exciting. The 60s were very exciting. They really were. A lot was happening, and you did feel that things were going to get better.